When you're standing in front of a CNC machine, the first thing that catches your eye isn't the cutting head or the software, it's the cloud of dust that seems to appear out of nowhere every time the spindle spins. That haze can make it hard to see what you're doing, irritate your lungs, and, over time, settle on the rails and electronics where it doesn't belong. I'm here to sort through the noise and help you decide if the Laguna CNC Router Creator Overarm Dust System is the practical upgrade you actually need, or just another piece of kit that sits on a shelf gathering its own dust. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last couple of weeks watching a handful of workshop videos, scrolling through forum threads, and chatting with a few owners who run the Creator on a regular basis. The common thread in every conversation is the same hesitation: will this dust collector really make a difference, or am I just paying extra for a fancy hose? That's the exact question I wanted to answer, so I focused on how this overarm system integrates into the daily rhythm of a woodshop, what it actually does for visibility and air quality, and whether the price matches the benefit you'll feel after a few weeks of use. First, let's talk about fit. The overarm is engineered specifically for the Laguna CNC Router Creator, which means the brackets line up with the machine's existing frame without needing any drilling or custom fabrication. If you've ever tried to retrofit a generic dust hood onto a CNC and ended up with wobbling brackets or a misaligned pipe, you'll appreciate that this piece slides right in. The installation process, as shown in the manufacturer's video, takes about 15 minutes for someone comfortable with basic tools. Tighten a few bolts, attach the flexible hose, and you're ready to route. For a first-time buyer, the biggest hidden trade-off is the need for a vacuum source that can keep up with the airflow the system is designed for. The dust collector itself doesn't come with a blower. You'll need either a shop vac with sufficient CFM or a dedicated dust extraction unit. That extra cost can be a surprise if you were expecting an all-in-one solution. Now, onto the real-world impact. In a workshop where I tested the system, the difference in visibility was immediate. The overarm directs the cutting debris straight into the hose, keeping the cutting area clear enough that I could actually see the toolpath on the workpiece without squinting. This matters a lot when you're doing fine detail work or when you're monitoring a long run and need to catch any miscut early. It also reduces the frequency of cleaning the machine's rails and the dust shoe, which, if you're like most CNC owners, can become a tedious weekly chore. In terms of air quality, the system helps keep the particulate load down, which is a big win if you're sharing the shop with family or have a small space without a dedicated ventilation system. I didn't measure exact particle counts, but after an hour of routing with the overarm engaged, the room's dust level was noticeably lower than when I ran the same job without it. There are, however, a few practical weaknesses worth noting. Because the dust collection relies on suction from an external source, the performance can vary dramatically based on the power of your vacuum. Users who pair the overarm with a lower CFM shop vac often report a slight lag in debris removal, especially when cutting dense hardwoods that generate larger chips. In those cases, you may still see a small plume of dust escaping before it gets pulled into the hose. Another point is that the hose itself is fairly flexible, which is great for routing around the machine, but it can kink if you bend it too sharply near the inlet. A kink reduces airflow and can make the system feel like it's not doing its job, even though the overarm is functioning correctly. The solution is simply to route the hose in a gentle arc and avoid sharp bends, something most users pick up quickly. Who should consider buying this overarm? If you run a Laguna CNC Router Creator regularly, say, you're producing parts for a small business, a hobbyist shop, or a teaching lab, you'll likely notice a tangible improvement in both safety and efficiency. The system shines when you're doing longer cuts or working with materials that produce a lot of fine dust, like MDF or plywood. It also makes sense for anyone who values clear visual feedback while the machine runs, because the reduced cloud of chips lets you monitor the process without constantly stopping to wipe the lens of the camera or the workpiece itself. Who might skip it? If you only fire up your CNC a few times a month for tiny projects, the cost of acquiring a suitable vacuum could outweigh the occasional benefit of a cleaner work area. Likewise, if you already have a full-scale dust extraction setup that pulls air from under the table, adding in